Saudi Arabia, though, obviously one of the hot spots, as you saw from Simon's report. And Facebook groups had called March 11th a day of rage. Now, the clock striking 10 p.m. in Riyadh, there have been no protests either in Riyadh or in Jeddah. Joining us live from Riyadh tonight, Bruce Fenton, Atlantic Financial President and Managing Director. Bruce, nice to see you again. Obviously not in person, but good to see you there. And let me just ask you, obviously, as you know, every headline out of Saudi Arabia has moved U.S. markets. A lot of it perhaps from a lack of understanding of geography and what is happening. Tell us what it was like in Riyadh today.
It was completely calm. It wasn't even the day of rage wasn't even a day of irritation, really. It was a regular day. Today is the weekend. Friday is a weekend day in Saudi Arabia, so it was just a normal weekend. People were playing with their kids, and out in I was in a shopping mall today. I went by the areas that there was supposedly going to be protests. There was just no sign of it at all. None.
And I can see behind you, in typical Riyadh style, people are up very late. There's full traffic. So what you're saying is it isn't even that people stayed off the streets because they were afraid of getting implicated in anything. It was more of business as usual. Would you describe it as, or not quite?
Yeah, very much business as usual. There wasn't, I didn't really see many people off of the streets. People were very aware of this news, and a lot of people were kind of curious. Most people tended to think there wasn't going to be anything, that it was going to be sort of a fizzle, which has turned out. But and I don't think also that there's been a lot of talk that it was the police presence that kind of squashed this. I think it was really just a lack of interest in the protest. There really just wasn't a lot of people who wanted to protest. Are there people who want change? Of course there is. There's people who want change in every government everywhere in the world, but for people to be actually wanting to go out and protest, there just isn't that many here that are interested in taking that step. Most people are pretty happy with the way things are going, and the king is very, very popular. The government system is in need of improvement, like all governments, but very popular with the people.
Bruce, what sort of things, and obviously Riyadh and Jeddah are different than the cities where we have seen protests in the eastern province, where closer to Bahrain, you have a greater Shiite population, but in the heart of Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, where you are, when you talk to your Saudi Arabian contacts, what do they say are the reforms that they would like most quickly? I mean, obviously in the West, people talk about things like women aren't allowed to drive, which gets a lot of press, but perhaps isn't the most urgent issue facing women in Saudi Arabia, I think, is fair to say. What do you hear?
Well, my wife and I had lunch with a Saudi woman yesterday, a friend of ours, and she personally said that driving is something high on her list that she would like as a reform. But she also pointed out, she said it's interesting. There's actually a surprising number of people, including women, who that's not something high on their list. Yeah. So just like in the U.S., we have Republicans and Democrats on all different areas of the landscape. Here, there's people who want different things. Most people, like I said, are generally pretty happy with how things are, but it depends on the group. Some people want a lot of change. Some people like things the way they are.
And obviously, in your role, Bruce, at Atlantic Financial, I mean, you're investing as well as doing consulting. As an investor right now, I mean, the world watches Saudi Arabia. What happens there moves markets around the world. But you've also seen incredible volatility in Saudi Arabia. What have you been doing with your money, given the fact that you seem to have, because you're there, you have information that markets, say, in New York or London don't?
Right. Well, one good thing about this from a trading standpoint is that it's easier to have better information because there's so much misinformation, misconceptions, and misunderstandings about this part of the world. So it's pretty easy to know more than most. By being here or just taking a little bit of interest. Most Americans, as you know, have never been here, don't really know that much about the country or the region. And that's caused a lot of problems, not just in finance, but in a lot of areas. So knowing anything about it is a first step. And in an example like this week, I was pretty sure that there wasn't going to be, and I think even last time I was on your show, I mentioned that I didn't think it was going to be much of an issue with this so-called day of rage. And that's something that is pretty easy to see if you're here. You talk to people, you see what the mood is. People are not angry. People are not upset. The people are happy. They like the king. There's a lot of people that are, when the king came back from the hospital, there was lines and lines of people to greet him. They weren't there because somebody told them to or because that they were forced to or anything. They genuinely like it.
All right. Well, Bruce, thanks very much. Good to talk to you again. And Bruce Fenton, as we said, live from Riyadh tonight.
Thank you.